Okay, great. Sorry, there was a mix up on the mic. The only things you missed were attendance. Just basically, I did say, John, I know you're interested in this, but all the materials have been sent to the surveyor, and we're just waiting back to hear from him on a quote, and also if he needs anything else additional from us. And now we're at public comment. So there is no one in the audience for public comment. You just had one person come in. Okay. No one is here for public comment. So if there anyone online who has public comment, would you please unmute yourself and I'll call on you. Okay, hearing no public comment, we'll move on to our approval of minutes. All right, Jim and Jude, we have the minutes before us from June 3rd, our regular meeting. Were there any changes that you noticed that or corrections that we needed to make?
The only corrections I noted were the ones that Frank Pappalardo picked up and submitted, and I expect they've been changed.
I think I did because I finished it after. We can check on
Other than that, I have nothing.
anything else.
I do not.
Okay. Can I have a motion to accept the minutes of June 3rd, 2024?
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes of June 3rd, 2024 with the corrections from Frank Pappalardo.
I will second.
Thank you, Jude. Thank you, Jim. Any further discussion? Hearing none, let's call for a vote. All those in favor of the motion on the floor to approve the minutes of June 3rd, 2024, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? The motion passes. Thank you. Okay, next up, we have a special presentation from the Halls Road Improvement Project to our committee. So would they like to come forward? Edie, there are mics, and is that going to work?
This thing did not get to start.
Can't get it to start. Okay, we have two mics, or we have one mic, and then
I can probably
Share, we can share, we're not gonna talk that much. Judy,
Edie probably needs it.
Sure.
You want this one?
Edie will do, but
put that yours around for
we
Edie.
could share.
Perfect. Thank you.
There.
Okay.
Aye.
So first of all, thank you so much for preparing this update for us. Thank you for answering our questions and sending them along prior to this meeting. We appreciate that. And so now, what would you like to tell us about all the exciting things we're doing?
Well, our main hope is to get your responses from what we sent out this morning. So we sent out a document that talked about, where we are today, 3 different components of what we've been working with for the last multiple years. What are the next steps and where we want to be and how to get there. So, the main components are complete streets, which is what we are calling our sidewalk project. Basically, in order to kind of give it a name, we want to call it the Halls Road Complete Streets Project, mainly because it complies with DOT's program called Complete Streets. It includes sidewalks, pedestrian crossing, bike paths, transit stops, and lighting and landscaping.
Oh.
Stumbling along here. And then the next element is the Bridge and Trails Project, which is not on DOT property. So it is considered to be a separate project. It's something the town has a little bit more control of. And the third project piece to the elements are the HROD, which is the Halls Road Overlay District. So we'd just love to hear back from you guys. If you have questions, if you have thoughts, if you want to talk to us about it, go for it.
I have a quick question about where the, sorry.
I'll share with you.
Just have a quick question about where the sidewalk from Lime Street to the Hangry Goose area. Does that fall into the Complete Streets Halls Road, or does that fall into Bridge and Trails?
It falls
is that-
into
is that
the,
separate?
because it's DOT property, it falls into complete streets.
Okay.
It would be the very first thing that we would consider working on with sidewalks. Not only is it connecting what's sort of a sidewalk right now, but it would be connecting to the bridge, which then would become a safer way to get over the Lieutenant River. It's probably a little bit more involved than just putting down sidewalks. So I don't know if you recognize, but there is a stream that comes from the Lime Art Association, goes into a culvert, it goes underneath Paul's Road and bounces out next to Hangry Goose. So that requires a little bit more than just a sidewalk. It requires some kind of boardwalk that was originally outlined in our master plan.
Is that, the area that Jim is referencing from Lime Street, say to the bridge?
Yeah.
Will that sidewalk be crossing property that's owned by other people?
No,
So, the parking lot areas where the sidewalk would go through is DOT
yes,
property?
it is. It is.
Okay.
And it also, in the bridge project, there's a little triangle of property that
Mhm.
belongs to Deep, which we're in the process of having them give to us.
Where they want 8 parking spaces?
Yes.
Okay,
Well, we're doing 4 parking spaces there and 4 on the western side of the river.
I had a question in the first part of, well, not complete streets, that seems pretty obvious to me. But when you move down to bridge and trails, it says walk/bike routes.
Can you just paragraphs, just so that we're all on the
The
same?
top, it's where it says plan elements,
Oh,
and it's
okay,
broken
okay.
down into 3 categories.
Okay,
I'm expecting the fishing pier that I'm reading reference to, that's part of bridge and trails, or is that a separate project that comes under a different category?
Well, it showed up unbeknownst to our
Right,
plans.
even though,
So in order to get this property from Deep, the western side of the bridge was originally,
is it
given-
where Stephen Ross had originally wanted to put a platform for
Yes.
harbor management?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
so their part goes way back.
that goes way
Okay.
back, yes.
Okay, great.
So originally, the Deep gave the western side of the river
Mhm.
to the town. And in giving it to the town, they said they needed to have recreation for fishing and boating. So
Okay.
that was already there.
Right.
When we talked with Deep about giving us the eastern side of the
Mhm.
river, they said, okay, but you gotta give us a fishing pier because the abutment will no longer be,
Right.
there's parts of it that you could fish from, but
Right.
not completely. And then Harbor Management has asked to also have a floating dock or some kind of boat access.
But it sounds like that concept would be, and that piece of land has had conversations about it in the past. It's just now coming together as part of the bridge and trails.
Yeah, so the bridge and trails, we originally thought we had to make some kind of deal with Grable, who owns the
Right.
Hangry Goose property.
Yep.
But it turned out that Deep owned that other triangular
Mhm.
piece of property. So in order to not encroach on the Hangry Goose property,
Right.
we are pushing the bridge and trails south of Hangry Goose's property line
Got it.
and going along there, but that requires us using some property from Deep.
Well, I'm happy that harbor management and Halls Road are working together because it
Yes.
seemed like there were 2 different directions over the same piece of water at one point.
Yeah, no, we're definitely trying to make sure that we have complete understanding, and they know a lot more about this type of work than we do, so we're
Yeah.
relying on them. We've had conversations with them and our engineers.
The second paragraph under complete streets, I had a question reading through it. It said, in practice, permits are usually sought in connection, blah, 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 blah. We applied for DOT's LoCIP grant in 2022. Then what's the expected time that we will hear something back,
So-
unless you've already heard?
So this story is Vale of Tears. Basically, when we applied,
Yep.
back when we worked with BSC on the master plan,
Okay,
the latest, greatest grant option was LoCIP.
Yep.
Okay. And they made sure that everything they designed for the master plan was compliant with complete streets. And then the first step we took after the master plan was built was to put in more money to create the lot SIP application. Unfortunately, the lot SIP application was already swamped with too many applications. And when we put ours in, it just sat there going nowhere. So eventually, in the last year or two, we got back to Rivercog and said, what happened to our application? And they said, well, been no more requests for submittals for lot SIP since 2020. So we have been stuck in limbo on that one.
Okay,
So if we were to do things through lot SIP, we would not get it until 2027, 28.
Yeah.
And also, along with that.
but we have submitted.
We submitted it, but it's not been
2022.
asked to be submitted, so it's just sitting there. However, we did ask the DOT, can you please just look at this and
Right.
tell us whether this is something that complies with something that you would approve?
Exactly.
And we finally, we had a verbal back in last fall, and we also had recently, I think in May, we had an actual written thing that says, this complies with what Complete Streets requires, and we believe it's a project that won't have any problems being done.
There were, pardon me, if I may interject in that, DOT did have some recommendations after that informal review that we still have to comply with.
Okay, so it's not, it was an informal review. It wasn't an actual application. So they're making recommendations
Yes.
for when you do apply.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
I'm just trying to
No,
track. I mean-
it's so confusing. It's a very
It's-
complex little project.
And I remember this commission being started before you even got involved, and you've been involved, I can't imagine how many years at this point.
100
So I'm trying to track as well.
Absolutely critical feedback from DOT
course.
because any applications would
Right.
have to get DOT approval first. So we've identified a variety of different funding sources for this. But unless DOT came out and said something to indicate they would support it,
Mhm.
it was like a waste of time. So it was really important that we in fact get that letter from them and the review saying that they did not see any problems. with
Right,
it.
so now you.
They did make
So that has been
recommendations,
accomplished.
but
Okay.
none of them were deal breakers.
Got it.
Yeah, I mean, the recommendations, make sure you understand, the curb cuts and.
And the recommendations that Bill just
Right,
spoke of.
Right.
Okay,
I'm on the Rivercog Planning Group,
right.
and they're looking at the state's EOCD revisions and Rivercogs. And the only thing I would say is the complete streets concept fits very well with what the state wants to do.
That's encouraging. So that would be,
This is exactly the kind of elements that we have in our plan and our master plan. They want to see mixed use, they want to see housing in commercial areas, they want to see bike paths and everything in there fits very nicely with what the state.
And that's part and parcel with what BSC, our previous consultants,
Mhm.
helped us do in the master plan to make sure it would comply with all those details.
so we're back to, yes, sidewalks are important and there is a direction here. So that's good to know.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Edie's, my understanding is that our best avenue right now is a TAP grant.
Yeah.
Rather than,
Oh.
so,
Well, right now, the TAP grant is something we have actually applied for.
okay.
We had about 4 days to put the application in, but we did it. And we have our ghostwriter over here. And but regardless, even that, we have put it in, and it's going to New Haven next because we're considered a small urban area. So even though it's through Rivercog, it connects into New Haven.
Okay.
We are the
It,
easternmost town.
It's New Haven urbanized areas money. They have,
Okay, that's where my
their
question
money.
is. Where is this
And
money? So,
They
okay,
only have 3 applications,
Right.
and we are the third,
Yeah.
and they usually have 12. So we have a very
Nice job.
good chance of getting some money through that.
And this application was for the whole public
As it said.
improvements. It included the bridge and trails and the complete streets, and it was specifically for construction.
okay.
So construction versus design are two different animals.
I understand that.
We're in the world of, okay, go ahead.
So if that money came in, would that also be used for the bridge, sidewalks, wherever you need construction money?
It could be,
okay.
yes.
Is that a grant where the town would have to match funds? Is it like, we'll give you 75% and you guys have to come up with the other?
Yeah.
So if we give you 2 million, you
Now-
have to come up with 500, whatever it is.
varies in I've looked at so many of them.
Oh, I
can't
bet.
remember the details for any specific one. But very often, if you have put money in, say, for design work
Mhm.
and surveys and all, that could be counted as match money.
Okay.
And sometimes, not always, but sometimes you can also have other grant funding that could be considered a match for it as well. I think it goes without saying, if the town is putting forward money and saying, well, at least we have a pot, not necessarily the entire amount, but
Oh, of course.
showing the town's commitment to the project, it also sort of,
Adds clout.
it adds clout, it makes them look at it more favorably because they say,
Of course.
the town's serious about this.
So my next question that I've been asked over and over and over again, prior to your involvement here, has the town tracked, do we know how much money has been spent on Halls Road, whether it's improvement,
I've been working.
design, whether it's $10,000 for a study or a MailChimp or anything? Where was the money spent and how much has been spent in what, 13, 14 years?
So I
And not
have
just
been
design.
working on that, along with Anita, and, so basically, there were two funds. The original fund from 2018, during 2018, was through the land use.
Okay, that's
fund.
6 years
Do you
ago.
have
Okay.
copies of that for us? I mean,
I'm
if you-
thinking-
I'm very visual, so I'd rather follow along.
Do you have it back to when the committee fell apart and got going again, say 15, 12 years ago?
I have it from,
Studies,
I have it
master
from,
plans.
starting with
Thank you.
YUW and the TIF program.
Okay, I don't
So
remember what year.
Yale Urban Design Workshop was one thing that we
Yeah.
paid some money for. And we also asked for money to create a TIF district.
I remember that,
Which never happened.
right?
So
Was
that
there,
was a chunk of money.
was there a study that the town funded or a survey or development of a master plan for the entire town? Because that was money spent too, I believe, that
I
was
don't have
looking,
any
you
record
don't
of
have
that.
any of that?
I
Okay,
have
maybe
no
I
record of
can.
that. I know we talked about this a
Yeah.
while ago. I
It's
have no
old.
record of that. There was money spent for the,
Advanced CT.
Yeah, exactly. You were on that.
That was about, I remember, don't quote me.
No, I won't. Your memory's
45, 47,000, but
I
that
thought it
was.
was 45 to 47.
Survey for residents and businesses.
Right.
For the master plan for the town.
For the whole town.
Right.
Just getting input on economic development.
Right.
And that was hosted by EDC.
Yeah.
it was not a master plan, it was a survey.
Right.
It was a economic development.
I remember that.
review.
Yep.
So
So-
they came up with a bunch of different suggestions of.
So we've been studying for
Things that need to happen.
quite a while.
Yeah, we had-
Okay,
we
so
had
that was
several
EDC.
really Great meetings with that.
Yep. Okay, so hopefully that contributed some information to
It
the
definitely
project.
did. It definitely did. I mean, one of the main things was that people wanted Old Lyme to look like it was Old Lyme as opposed to a strip center or various other.
I thought you were gonna say like the Brandmore Strip Park.
But But yeah, it was a valuable, survey, and we got a lot of, businesses talking about what they wanted to see here.
The response rate was very high compared
remember that.
to all the other
Yep.
projects that the advancing had worked on.
And you had worked with the Board of Finance and the Board of Selectmen at that time on this, and it was,
So
we gathered a
we had
lot
a
of
very good
information.
response rate on that project. So we got a lot of good information that I think EDC is still using today.
Yeah, and everybody was in favor of seeing something change on Halls Road, was just another one of the takeaways from that, was that they didn't really love what Halls Road looked like. So there was quite a few responses about that.
And I believe if you need a copy of that, Cheryl would be your point person to pull that survey back up.
Edie, how far along are we on bridge and trails design?
So we were fully funded to just do the bridge and trails. Then we got the fishing pier. So right now, we're kind of in negotiation with the engineer, having Harbor Management help us with that in terms of figuring out what extra costs are going to happen. There was the geotech investigation that was required for the original design work had been done, but there was nothing done for going into the water per se. You know, we're not putting any pilings in the water, we're just spanning over it. So, but there's questions about permitting, and Harbor Management has been very helpful getting us up to speed on other questions we have. We also just recently have worked with a new person coming into our group that's right now the consultant, and he'd love to join our committee. Paul Giaquinto. He has been a project engineer for many, many years, 30, 40 years. His last work was doing work for Electric Boat, building piers for Electric Boat. He also worked for Gilbane for many years. And so he is helping us also look at the engineer's next quote for doing more work. So we're still waiting to figure that out.
If we factor out the pier and the floating dock, are we pretty much there with the design?
We're close. I actually had them stop doing any construction
Sure.
drawings because I didn't want to spend
Of course
money
not.
until we knew what we were doing for the fishing pier. There is a concept. It has been shown to the town through open houses. We started with two separate bridge options in terms of style, and we got that narrowed down to wanting a glue lamp bridge, which would be a very simplistic, beautiful bridge. So we have a plan for what we want. I believe they're telling me that they are already doing some construction drawings that would include how to create the new footings for the bridge to land around. And there'll be boardwalks that go out in either direction, because the bridge has to be 8 feet off the waterway. And in order to do that, you then have to go down in an ADA way down to the roadways.
I have two questions. So it's the state is recommending or suggesting the fishing pier dock. So that add-on is a requirement.
That's
For the state.
In order to land the bridge. we
Right,
need that.
exactly. And then second of all, do we need construction drawings to apply for grant money?
Well, if you don't have the design and.
No, I understand design, but I mean
It's-
construction drawings.
It's a little like shooting yourself in the foot, because you don't really know how much it's gonna cost.
Of course.
And you know what's involved. It's much better to walk in with the design in hand and say, we're ready to go. So.
And I saw your breakdown of phases of design and construction. I understand that. Design and construction, my experience, were two different sets of drawings. So do we need to pay for construction drawings before we find out whether or not we can apply for a grant?
We
My
actually-
concern is running out of money.
One through
Right.
Courtney's office.
Okay,
So, and that was for construction before the fishing pier piece got thrown into it. So that has been applied for.
Okay,
based on having design work in the works. And by the time we get an answer, we should have the design work completed. So the fishing pier piece does need to be figured out. It does need to be paid for somehow. And that's kind of sitting there waiting to be worked out. I think between, Michael Barnes from Harbor Management and our new friend Paul, we should be able to negotiate with AI more
okay.
time.
It sounds like Paul is a gem. Is he submitting an application to be part of that committee, or are
Yes,
we
he
using
just
him as a
submitted it the
consultant?
other day.
And I just need to, say that you're at max right now. So we would either have to add to your committee, or perhaps there's someone who's ready to step down. That's up to you.
We're going to get a strong person.
Right.
And I don't think being a committee, we have, never been required a certain amount of people.
That's
So it's a little different than being commissioned, but
commission. We can always look at the original charges to what they, if they gave it. And that I'll have to have Vicky do the research when she comes back in, but she's on vacation today and I believe tomorrow as well. But I can just have her do a quick check as long as there were no allotted numbers. And then we can discuss it at our next meeting and
that'd be great.
appoint.
We appreciate that. Yeah.
It would be an asset to you.
And at
Is
this
that-
point, we,
Is that if we have a vacancy, we have to post in case there are other
Yes.
people who are interested as well. But I just want to make sure we comply.
yeah, and he's happy to, be a consultant and not be part. That's,
That's fine too. Well, he can certainly work in that capacity now and come to your meetings. He's a resident of the
stepped
town.
in on Thursday. He's already.
Yeah, it sounds great. As I said, it sounds like he's a gem to be able to do it.
You know, if I may, interject to kind of expand on Jim's question a little bit, as far as the money and where we are. I think bottom line, we can say when we look at the two different sides of the project, you're looking at the sidewalks as one element, and you're looking at the roads and trails another, because of separate grants sometimes, but they're two separate projects. The best way to look at that is that when you look at the bridge and trails, okay, we have a current design that has to be modified for the DEEP's requirements for the fishing pier. Okay. We don't have any money to do that design work, okay? And we don't have any potential grants right now, in the near future that will pay for that. So that's on the bridge and trail side. When we look at the sidewalks, the infrastructure side, okay, we have no design. We have no design work for that. We're developing a plan how we want to phase it in. But we're going to need we're going to need funds to do a design. And also the first part of that is to do a survey of the roads. We're going to need to find funds somewhere to do the survey that DOT requires. And then we're going to have to find the funds to do the design. Now, we already have a BSC, which was the master plan designer, preliminary cost, what that would cost. We have a good idea of what those are. But I just want to kind of leave you with the fact that, yes, on the bridge and trails, we have a design, we have to modify it. On the infrastructure side, we have no design. We've got to find, in order to start that project, we need to find funding, we have to find funding somewhere, whether it's through the town or whatever. And most of the grants that we're looking at, a lot of them are very restrictive on the design aspect of it, okay? They're more receptive to doing the construction work. So it's kind of a balancing act going through it right now, but right now, as far as design on the sidewalks, we're kind of.
I think you're anticipating, not a concern of mine, but like where we're going from here. Because it seems like our best bet, just in terms of how we got bogged down in lots of, is looking at this TAP grant, which will fund the whole thing, maybe $7 million. And there'll probably be an 80-20 split, I'm guessing. It'll cover construction, will cover design.
Yeah.
So that's a lot of front loading that the town will have to do to have that work. it's also a few years out. And we haven't, just by necessity, done any work on the Halls Road Complete Streets part. We've done the work on the bridge and trails.
Right.
So it seems like and because of the pier, because of the floating dock, pushing things out a little bit more, it seems like we're kind of coalescing around doing the whole thing, assuming that it passes zoning, as a complete streets to wrap up the bridge and trails with the Halls Road sidewalk and to do it under one grant. That seems to be where we're going.
I don't know if I agree with that. When we look at the two major grants that I'm talking major grants, that's LoSiP
Right.
and TA offset, okay? We've been told by Rivercog that even with the TA offset, we're number 3 on that list, but we shouldn't expect funding from that for 3 or 4 years, okay? So, and that was for design. So what I'm saying is that we do not have any, currently with what we know, we're looking at, that we do not have any fund identified for at least 3 or 4 years to do any design work on the sidewalks. Now, we do have a Courtney grant that was strictly for bridge and trails. It wasn't for the sidewalks. That is pending, but that money, if we get it, will only be for bridge and trails. And typically, that's a grant that Essex was very successful at getting, okay? To give you an example, how much money do you normally get from those? They asked for 2 million and they got 1 million, if I'm correct, Jane.
That sounds right.
So even though we're asking for these numbers, like we're asking for 7 million, where when you take a look at what the allocations were based on, you're only going to get a portion of even what you're looking for. So that means that we have to find money somewhere else. We're not going to get the money we're asking for.
So if I could just say that in discussions with some of the area selectmen from other towns, I realized that one of the ways that they fund some of these projects is by looking at their end of the year, what they're giving back. And when they decide what they're giving back, some towns have a policy that like 50% of that, instead of all of it going to the general fund, 50% goes back into construction projects or sidewalks. Some have it just noted for sidewalks, and that's not just always building new ones, but maintaining the ones that you have. So they, in discussions with them, they said that would be something to work with the Board of Finance on, to say this would be a way to save for these types of projects by putting some of this money away in a fund, a special fund for sidewalks.
Do you know if that required a town meeting or just Board of Selectmen and Board of Finance approval? Because it could be
I think it's
quite a bit of money.
a policy. But we'd have to do some research into it. But first of all, we wouldn't even have a number till July. So we would not even be able to discuss it until the end of the year books close on June 30th.
I think that would be a good way to proceed. And if there's any chunk of this we could bite off ahead of, 3 to 5 years from now, if there's something we can do sooner. We did that in Soundview because that project, DOT changed its parameters a couple of times on us. And so parts of the project fell out, and then we ended up saying, all right, what can we do? How can we triage this and get something done? So we got that part of it done. Then the next time, let's do this part. Oh, we can actually do a little bit more, but we have to get rid of this. So, there's ways of massaging it.
Yes.
And we know that part from Lime Street to the Hangry Goose needs to be done. I think everyone agrees on that. And no matter what happens or how Falls Road happens, we're going to need that.
Yes.
So if there's a way we could bite off that chunk, and if that's the town sort of paying forward a little bit.
Being creative.
Being creative as a separate sidewalk project, even separating it out from this.
Yeah.
With the knowledge it's going to have to dovetail with what's going on at Bridges and
Right.
Trails.
It
It's going to
doesn't
have to
just-
dovetail with what's going on at Streets and Halls Road, but can we get that part done in the beginning?
Mhm.
I agree with
So-
being creative. My biggest concern right now is because people who have lived here a long time realize the project's been evolving into different sections, and it's been going on for a while, and this grant process is so slow. But my biggest concern is, given the senior building project and the school, I'm not sure the town would be very receptive to us coming and asking for more money. So without being creative. So I think we
Right,
really need
that's
to work on that.
You know, if I might just add, and I hope I'm not speaking out of turn, we're talking for money, but when we looked at just that one section, when BSC went back and looked at that one section from the river to Lime Street, if we put the sidewalks in the elevated bridge in there, and we did the required survey that we know that we have to do, that's just required. If we did the budgetary number that we've been given for just to do that one piece, we did in phases, what about $260,000? So that's what we're talking about to get the ball rolling. So to do that design for that piece and do the survey, which we didn't do the complete survey because there's no sense in doing a piecemeal survey, but that's about $260,000 thereabouts to do.
That was design and survey for that.
Well,
Just design.
I also think, Bill, that we have to talk to DOT because they already did a survey on Halls Road when they designed the road. So they already have the survey
Yeah.
done, and we would only have to go back and repeat the areas that have changed since then,
I think
or what they would have to update.
their survey may have been from many, many, many years ago.
It may have, but
So what we're hearing from a design firm, engineering firm, is that they require current
Yeah.
survey. They can't rely on something
course.
that, you know, we've got
Right, yeah.
15 new curb cuts in there and we don't know what they are. There's all sorts of utility changes since the original design was done.
No wonder
So
we
I
come
don't
back.
think you can rely on a
Yeah.
full survey. The survey costs $35,000. It's chump change compared to other things. And what we just talked with BSC, who's been very helpful with us to help us figure out what would design cost for the whole thing. When they did the lot SIP grant, they did some pretty well engineered drawings to show what we're asking DOT to build for us, or, you know, to help us build. And we asked him, so if we did the survey and we have those drawings that you guys have already done,
Mhm.
how much more work would it require to connect the survey with the older drawings?
right.
And he said, you know, that's not that much more work. You're almost at 25% there. And one of the things that he had actually recommended is you might want to take a 25% drawing set and then give it to DOT and say, this is what we're trying to do. So you could do just this 25% piece and get DOT to react to that and see where you land. So you wouldn't have to do the whole 100% design work
Right,
upfront.
exactly. Or say construction documents or anything like that, which always, every time you take it a step further, it's more money.
Mhm.
Edie, thank you and everyone else for working so hard on this. It's nice to have a chapter in front of us instead of
Yeah.
pieces all over the place.
know,
It's
yeah.
very helpful. Thank you.
I just might add one thing. Having worked on this big project and others similar in town, it just seemed to me what I've come away with is, you know, it's very difficult to get these kind of projects done unless there's a town planner, either part-time or full-time, who's someone who is accountable for getting them done. So because you have so many different divergent groups and commissions, and it would be great. And I think a lot of towns, you know, these big projects, that's what they have. The second thing is that when these projects start, it would be great to also have better collaboration, cooperation among the boards and commissions from the beginning. So we're not at this, you know, we do this, someone else has to approve it, and then someone else has to approve it. If we started with better collaboration in the beginning, I think that would expedite the whole process. And then third, I think you need leadership from the top to drive these projects, because they're just so, if you look at the major projects in town, they take a very long time. Sewers, this.
Absolutely.
affordable housing,
Unfortunately,
and Gateway, all of those. And to me, those are kind of things you should at least consider.
I
That's my
agree.
experience.
Unfortunately, we're a town of 7,800 people and a lot of volunteers who are working as hard as they can. on small budgets or
One of
with
the
small
things that we
budgets.
learned Recently, when we went to look at the Essex
Mm-hmm.
project, is that they have a town planner, which
Mhm.
is a consultant. So
Yep.
he's not full-time town planner,
Got it.
and he also works for Chester, for Deep
Mhm.
River, Westbrook, and I believe even Saybrook, he does some work. So for instance, he wrote the zoning for Chester Village. So there is a way of outsourcing to
Right,
professionals
absolutely.
that can really help the town, and you don't have to make a full-time position for that. You can actually get it.
Another consultant.
I think also another thing that we learned is that when they get a project and they've got it planned out, then Public Works starts to look at it and says, okay, what can we pull out of this
course.
project that we can do? We can get the dirt, we can get the rocks, we can do this much cheaper than
Absolutely. It's
the
a,
rate,
Construction.
the construction numbers that we've gotten.
and they've
So
done a great job up
They
there.
do, and they're using that's their very creative way of using better funding options. So
The other thing,
that's another thing we have to look at.
I'm not sure this is practical, and getting bigger is probably not something we want to do, but I did notice the town of Groton is looking townwide for their complete streets strategy. There's a component where they're going to do design townwide for complete streets, and they have a project manager for that aspect of it. I know we're talking about a new committee for public safety, road safety, and complete streets makes sense for speeding issues,
Right.
where you build in infrastructure that forces people to behave in a certain way when they drive. And so rather than project by project, as Howard was saying, or, neighborhood versus neighborhood, it would be a town-wide survey of what do we need and how do we gather the funding for this and what are the priorities? Maybe, I'm not sure, like the last thing you probably need is, let's make this even on a bigger scale, but there may be some cost savings in there, there may be some efficiencies in there that we're not thinking about, where we can knock out a couple things like speeding and complete streets. And I'm sure Halls Road would be the priority since you're so far along on design.
Yeah. Well, and also we are a small town, so geographically, we
Right.
don't have that much. I mean, you look at Essex, they're
Right.
doing Deep River and Ivyton, and they've got sidewalks all over them.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
We can barely do this, So-
But if you
one of-
get a complete street strategy, that's where the consultant could come in.
Right.
Rather than a town planner, you have someone who's driving.
Right.
that.
Yes.
And this big project has has turned into 3 projects that make up one. So
Yeah.
the expertise on each different one requires different knowledge. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, if I can leave you, 3 selectmen with one thing, and everyone's being very nice, I'm gonna be right to the point. Basically, we're kind of stopped as far as continuing any kind of design work, on the sidewalks and to a point on the bridge. A lot of the questions that we have when we're talking with consultants that we've worked for on there, but it's kind of, we're just asking them a favor for more information to get some serious work done here. We really need your support in getting some funding to continue our design work on both ends. I mean, DOT is asking, they have suggestions. We don't have the expertise to give them the answers, okay? So we really have to go back to somebody like the BSC to say, hey, DOT suggested this, can we incorporate that? But I mean, there's a point that these people are gonna want to be paid. So we're kind of asking favors of these people right now, and we really don't have, we just need money. We need some funding.
I have a clarification question. When you say bridge, you mean bridge and the fishing pier, right?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
one unit.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
there's definitely a need there
It's
to
now
continue.
bridge fishing.
Yeah,
pier.
I think if we could get some clarification as to what exactly the pier.
I think we need to work that
And
up for you
yeah,
guys,
yeah.
because we need to come up with a real budget
Because we can't
request.
just appropriate
exactly.
or
And
something that's not,
understand,
you know.
we will also need,
We
when we
can come-
reapply for
Yeah.
H5. we'll need
Exactly.
some lawyer fees.
It's like if we get the deep sign off, if we get harbor management, if we get people signing off on the concept, if we get the concept clarified, that this is a doable thing, then we can look at design and funding design, I think. But
Yep.
at this stage,
Back to
it's
the
very
back.
difficult to fund design.
Yep.
Okay. Good meeting. Thank you,
Thank
everyone.
you both,
Thank you.
all of you, not both, many. Okay, so we're going to move on to our new business. First up is that we have a request from the Old Line Fire Department. I'm just going to, Mike McCarthy wrote a letter with Jared Flagg. Jude and I happened to learn a little bit about this request at the ambulance ribbon cutting the other night.
We didn't get the letter though,
Yeah,
right?
I'm sorry,
Okay.
you didn't. I'm going to read it though.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Please.
All right, so it's to the Board of Selectmen. Don't feel you have to take this down. I'll add it in. Okay. As some of you may know, the Old Line Fire Department recently took delivery on a new Zodiac Marine 38-1 for our Cross Lane station. We are very excited to be able to start getting our members trained on the new boat once the weather warms up a little bit. As we think about training and transferring equipment to make the new boat operational, we wanted to reach out to the Board of Selectmen regarding the future of our outgoing boat. In the past, the town and the Old Line Fire Department have placed our outgoing apparatus and assets up for public auction. We could continue with this past practice and set a reserve of an amount determined by the town. The boat may or may not sell for its current value. However, we would like to see if the town would be amicable to a unique transfer of the old boat instead of an auction. We were approached in the fall of last year by Water Training Resources, WTR, and they said they were interested in trading a marine class for our outgoing Zodiac, specifically an NFPA Ice Rescue Technician class. This class would normally cost $2,000. We would be able to get up to 16 members trained to NFPA standards ice rescue technicians without incurring any cost to the town. If Mother Nature has other plans for the ice, WTR is more than happy to supplement the ice rescue class with another one of their marine rescue classes that they offer. We have used WTR for several other marine environment focused classes and have been very happy with the knowledge, experience, and flexibility that they were able to provide. Just this past year, we were able to get 8 members certified with the National Safe Boating Council in sonar, search and rescue, and boat handling through a class with WTR. We plan to use them again in the future also. As you all know, the marine environment can be very dynamic and very unforgiving for us on calls. This class will greatly help us to develop and sharpen the skills that we need when our residents are in trouble and need us to respond. There is no doubt in my mind that the outgoing Zodiac still has value. My concern is if we put the boat up for public auction, we may only get the minimum bid allowed. There's no guarantee that the town could recoup the actual current value of the boat. By agreeing to the exchange of the old boat for the class, we are gaining not only the cost of the class, but also the dividends from the training to our members. If the skills learned in this class help rescue one person, to me, it's worth 10 times what we would get at auction. We wanted to make sure that the boat knew all the options before you decided on how this asset would be transferred. We are eager to hear your thoughts and feedback in regards to how we should proceed with this great opportunity. Thank you in advance for your time and consideration. And it's signed by the Chief, Mike McCarthy, and also Captain Jared Flagg. So that is their creative way of dealing with, again, a funding opportunity.
Did they give us the market value of the boat
Right.
as they perceive it?
They did not. They gave us, I think he feels that the $2,000 class may be in it, but he's not given me a price for the boat.
I have the same question.
Okay, so I can ask that.
I think a little more information would be helpful. I'm in agreement. It sounds like a great trade, but the devil's in the details, and I don't want to make an uninformed decision.
Okay, no problem.
But I'm happy he's so creative.
Yep. I will ask that question and we'll have it at our July meeting.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Okay, let's go to the request from the Duck River Cemetery. Both of you had this in your mailbox, I was approached by Tim Griswold to see if we would help the Old Lyme Cemetery Association with some drainage issues in the Duck River Cemetery. I felt that this should come before the entire Board of Selectmen, although I was asked if I could just approve it. I said no. So I'm coming to both of you today, that they were asking basically if the Public Works town group would be able to assist the association with the project. And they believe that the task could take 2 to 3 days of their time. And the cemetery association would purchase all of the materials. And Tim also prepared some of the things that the Old Lyme Association does as far as, provides burial grounds for Old Lyme residents. And we use their parade grounds for the Memorial Day parade. Local residents are welcome to walk the cemetery grounds, even with their dogs. And the water that enters the drainage pipe on the west side comes principally from 4 town catch basins, 2 at the intersection of McCurdy Road and Bittersweet Lane, and 2 about 50 yards to the north on Bittersweet Lane. And while the association has an endowment, it depends on that income to pay the ever-increasing operating expenses of its 8 cemeteries. The association is presently preparing to upgrade its bridge in the Duck River Cemetery, and the engineering work will likely be a 6-figure expense, and the actual bridge work will likely cost a similar amount. So that was his request from the Old Lyme Cemetery Association. We would love to have you come up, Dr. Penn. Do you want to come up?
My only qualification is that we really don't have the drainage problem. The drainage pipe traverses the cemetery and it collects water that's generated in an area that's off our property, but receives water from 4 catch basins. And the pipe is old, it has degraded, it collapsed in several places. It's really unsafe for people that are walking, and where help would be greatly appreciated.
Let me ask you a question. How urgent do you think this is? Because first of all, Public Works in the summer is overloaded. We have 6 Public Works members. Currently, we have 1 out due to a new baby. We have people that will have some assigned vacation time. And I just need to know, scheduling wise.
It's not urgent. It's at the convenience of Public Works.
I would be supportive, provided it can be at the convenience of Public Works. I think it's something that's important and valuable to our town.
I would definitely support. I mean, I think the cemetery was originally founded by the town, even though now it's operated by a nonprofit. That it's always been sort of a civic burial ground. And so we have, I think, a responsibility there. I guess one concern is, do we need a deep permit, since I assume it empties into the Duck River, so we don't need a deep permit for this?
We're told we don't because.
Okay. And is this something that the town would want to be held harmless for our work that we're doing in the cemetery?
I'm sure that could be.
I would
And I have
expect,
absolutely no problem.
and on those terms, I
Yeah.
feel the same, but I echo Martha's concerns that if it's not an emergency and we can do it at a time that's convenient for Public Works.
I also would like to put some wording in there because we have many nonprofits in this town. And I just want some wording to say that because the drainage issue is basically because of town drainage pipes, that is why we're doing it.
Yeah, okay.
Because I don't want anybody to come and say, oh, I've got a drainage issue. Can you help us
Also,
on that?
this board initially approved the Duck River Cemetery.
Right.
And the consecration of
Yeah.
the ground and its use, so.
Yep.
uh,
I feel that
I
we have a
think we have a bit of
responsibility to help
responsibility.
maintain it.
Exactly.
So
So-
whatever language you put in, I'd be supportive.
Do you have volunteers on your group that are lawyers that would like to take it? Do you have volunteers on your group?
Or
that
Tim.
Are retired lawyers that would like to do some, if you could start and draft an agreement?
I'm sure.
And we don't need anything more than a page. It doesn't have to be
Right.
wordy. But then I'll send it to the legal team and they'll throw in their little one,
I'm sure we
twosies.
can do
Yeah,
that.
but that would save us some money on our legal side and that would be perfect.
Thank
And
you.
then
Haven't seen you in a long time.
We'll talk to Ed about possibly scheduling it. So do we want to say that we'll confirm this once we see the agreement? Because I think that
I think in principle, we say yes, but we can't finalize it until we have the one-page document or paragraph.
so I guess what I would like to do is to make a motion that we will approve the drainage pipe replacement in the Old Line Cemetery Association upon the approval and signing of a document. So if I could have one, you don't have to repeat it, but if you just, somebody wants to move that.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
I think in Tim's letter, he does indicate that we would be responsible for any permitting
Yes.
that's required.
Right.
So I'm sure that letter can evolve into the agreement.
Okay.
Thank you.
Is there any further discussion on that? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor of the motion on the floor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank
Have a
you
good
for sitting
night.
there so patiently. All right. The next one is the discussion action.
Oh,
We
boy.
don't really need to take action on bonding because we've already been approved for bonding by referendum. So we are just talking that I had a lengthy conversation
I bet.
today with Michael Botello, our bonding counsel. And we also talked to, and BJ was on the call, so was Barry Bernard, who's our financial advisor. So what we came up with is that we feel that it is best, and I'm sorry because I didn't grab my actual notes, but I can give you.
Paraphrase.
If we're looking at going out for public bid, yes, we will pay more as far as the legal side of things, but we will have a significant change in the interest rate. Currently, they're looking at some are coming out at 3.35.
Mhm.
If we went to a bank to look for a note, we would probably be looking at somewhere between 3.65 or higher. And we would still have cost with either side. So there would be cost, but the cost for the bank would be about 25% less. But I think that they did some maneuvering of things and it would still in the long run cost us about $100,000 more because the interest would be higher.
Of course.
So I think what we're looking at and what I would present to the Board of Finance tomorrow, that we would start to gather an actual proposal. And Barry's already started to put together. We haven't had bonding done in this town for about 15 years.
Mhm.
So we do not have a real rating.
Yep.
So this is
So
also,
we have to request the rating.
no, what we
Okay.
have to do is a
From reading this, I wasn't sure.
a POS, which is a preliminary. I'll get it to you. But it's-
I don't think we're
Yeah.
going to have a problem
No,
getting a
you're
good
not.
rating.
No,
So
we're not.
that's,
So, but basically it's a public offering statement, preliminary public offering statement or something like that. I'll put it in there. And what they said is that document alone is about 150 to 200 pages.
Mhm.
Barry will put that together for us. He will call for questions for myself, Anita, who I
Yep.
know is on the line. We will answer those to the best of our ability. And then they'll put that together, then they would put it out to bid, then we would have a public,
and he had explained that in these emails that
Yes.
he would have to work with the town to come up with that document.
right. So then Michael puts it out,
Mhm.
they get offers, and then we come back, and it's just like a bidding project. when
Sounds
we
great.
will Open them. And that's what I would recommend to the board, that I would like the Board of Finance to understand that that is the route that we're going to take. and start that process moving forward.
So you will convey that at the meeting tomorrow night?
I will.
Okay.
Any other questions?
If those numbers are knowable, I think the only unknown is what the actual bids will be.
Right.
But I saw the comps from the other towns, so it looks like we're in good shape.
Mhm.
So if they ran the numbers and
Sooner
you
the
save,
better.
you save 100K
It's gonna
to
take,
go out to public bid, let's do it.
will take us, I think, 12 to 16 weeks is what they said.
Okay.
And, faster we can get going on it, the better.
Right.
And in
Things
the
will-
meantime, we do have money to pay those bills, so we are good.
Excellent.
All right. Next one is the town hall painting project, just to keep you up to date. The painters were here this morning, sort of going around the
Saw them
building
outside.
and, getting a thing. They'll start power washing, I believe, tomorrow. So if you are entering this building, please be careful of wet, slippery surfaces.
And which company is doing this?
Jude,
I'm sorry.
I should have had that.
You can let me know it after.
Starts
I'm just
with an-
curious. Are they local?
Oh, I can believe so. Eric went out to bid in way back fall.
Okay. It did go out to bid.
But I believe
Okay.
it was someone that has also done this before for us, so.
I thought it was, but I was just,
We're,
thought maybe I'd recognize the name.
yeah,
Okay.
so that is,
So it starts tomorrow.
it starts
18th.
tomorrow, so it should. So remember, this is sort of a two-part project because we
Yep.
put one in fiscal year 23, 24.
Exactly.
And then the rest of it in 24, 25. So I'm not sure how he's working that, but
Well,
that's the way it's gonna be done.
okay.
And that will start. Okay. Now we're gonna have our appointments. So we have one person who would like to apply, and I gave you a copy of his application, Damon Coppola. I would like to have him appointed because of the fact that I believe it's Thursday night is the Flood and Erosion Control Board. So I would love it if we could name him. This would be a permanent position because our regular seat number 4 is vacant. And this would be a term that would end on 1/31/2025 for a regular member. And this would provide us with 4 Democrats, 3 unaffiliated, and 1 Republican. So we are following our rules for minority.
Well, I'd like to make a motion to appoint Damon P. Coppola to the Flood and Erosion Control Board, beginning immediately as a full regular member, whose term will end 1/31/2025.
Thank you.
I will second.
All right. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Call for a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? None. And motion.
Coppola. Yep. Almost like the wine.
All right. We also have our 3 members of the Senior Center Board of Directors. They are on a different type of schedule. They actually have their years ending on 6/30/24. So we have Peter Lucchese, who is our current Senior Center Board Chair. And we also have Mariette McCourt and Karen Geisler. Karen and Mariette are both fulfilling terms that, if you remember, they came into play when people left the board for various reasons. And they were appointed in December and February, I believe. So these would be new terms for them going forward. So if I could have a motion to appoint Peter Lucchese, Mariette McCourt, and Karen Geisler to return to the Senior Center Board for their terms. I don't have them in front of me, but I think their Peter's is longer as a regular, and I think they are, I will check, but I think it's.
I will
2 years.
move that motion.
Second.
Okay, any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll call for a vote. All those in favor of appointing Peter, Karen, and Mariette to the Senior Center Board for reappointment signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion, any opposed? None. Any abstentions? Nay. Would you like their names? Geisler is Geisler. Yep, MC, capital Court. And Peter's last name is Lucchese, Lucchese. Lucc.
LU, C is in Charlie, C is in Charlie.
Hese. Okay. All right, so we go back to, thank you both. All right. We said aye. We did votes. All right, these are our
Thanks.
our housing, old business to review and action on the low-income housing ordinance for tax abatement that BJ had wanted because of the concerns when we go to do our budget and we look at Rye Field and Limewood and Hope. And he thought that there should be something on the books. He had done some research and he and Michael Carey worked through this. This is what they came up with.
I have a question on this. I've read it a few times. It says may from time to time grant an abatement of real property taxes on housing solely for low or moderate income persons. And of course, it's defined by Connecticut general statute. We do not have to put those guidelines in. Do we, for future, want to put a ceiling or a cap on how many properties that we would offer abatements or what's it called here? Relief for? I mean, moderate income is a broad definition. And, you know, a lot of people in this town as they age may feel that they're in a moderate or fixed income category. So I'm looking at it from that perspective. Not everyone here is going to be making $1 million a year. So
I would assume if we looked at the definition of moderate income persons
yeah,
by CGS, that 8-202, we would get a definition from the
Right.
state, and that most likely is updated according to.
right. But will it make it that many more people in town will be qualifying for it and want the same relief?
Well, remember, it's may from time to.
No, I know. That's why I said I understand it's may from time to time. That's why I read it. I don't want to get us in a position where it comes around, and I understand the purpose and the reason, and I agree because it's always been for 20 plus years, how, you know, why Limewood, why Ryefield, why Hope, and of course, it's always granted, but is it too broad?
I think we may want to include a phrase that says deed restricted.
I like that because
I think Ryefield, I think all of those
a
are
restricted deed.
restricted by their deeds that they have to be, you know, either
Right,
senior housing or, you know, whatever it is. So
And
that-
Hope can't take that property, the person who's in it can't take it and sell it.
that
if
would
they-
be, that is deed restricted
Right,
too.
so-
I
So
think
doesn't
pretty
that
clear.
say that in section 8-215 of O9?
Well, I don't know, and that's
And I
why,
don't know, or in the provisions of section 12-81BB. So I will further ask, there's no rush on this because this will have to go to a town
of
meeting.
course,
So I will ask Michael and BJ about the deed. I will also do some more research on those various ordinances to see what they say, and I will forward them to you
okay,
once I
great,
have copies of them.
Thank you.
My suggestion would be just to run this by Mike Carey, if you could, please. Fourth sentence or fourth line down, where it just says statement of real property taxes.
Hold on, wait a minute, let me get there. May from time, are you on the
Abatement
top?
of real fourth line down.
Yeah, fourth line down, abatement of real property taxes on, and I would just add the words deed restricted right there.
Yeah, I think that would clarify it. I was looking for a way to limit it, and that would do
That
it.
way you would get Hope, you would get the
Right.
senior housing.
Yep.
Any
Great suggestion.
future-
Yes, and if
affordable
it's
housing.
not deed restricted,
It would
you
be-
automatically won't be
Yeah,
considered,
it
you
wouldn't be
won't
people
qualify.
can't come to us and say,
Okay.
hey.
Yeah.
Okay,
get low income.
Sounds good. Thank you.
okay. updates on the Ferry Road sidewalk project. I hope that you've had a chance to drive by.
Yes.
They are looking lovely.
Yes.
And Tim has sort of put the finishing touches on it. I know he called Ed for some dirt today because they'd run out of some and saw, see if Ed had any or where to go because they were going far away to get it. So I know
Good.
that. And then I know that seeding and unfortunately all that beautiful spring rain we had that would have been luscious on grass seed who is not around. So hopefully our homeowners will be nice enough to go out and water occasionally.
And I like the thank you you put in your Friday newsletter to Tim about it and the
Yeah.
call out on the sidewalks. That was nice.
He's a good foreman. He's a very good foreman and he's been down there taking pictures,
Yep.
clocking their time.
I think he misses some of his roles.
I do.
I see him holding court up. Never mind.
Yeah, I know.
He visits a lot and I think it's great.
Mhm.
He's an asset to our team.
Yes.
He
yes.
is a huge asset
Yeah.
to our town and I appreciate what he does for us. And that,
Okay.
all right. And then we have our selectmen's general discussion. So if there's any questions about things in town we want to talk about.
I think you hit on, update on, the landing and the surveyor and Mira, thank you. I have been trying to connect with our new HR person
Mhm.
for a visit or a conversation. And I realized her offices are bouncing around. I saw Katie and asked if she would mention it to her on Friday, and I've left a couple more voicemails.
So let me just say that the voicemails are basically going nowhere because her phone is not hooked up at the wall.
Great.
So
I would like, so what I did talk to Katie about earlier is maybe she told me about what her schedule is, so I'm hoping maybe on Thursday I can have a conversation with her. I have,
at the moment, she's onboarding 70 Park and Rec students.
okay,
So she's busy doing that. That's what she came in
Okay.
today, but she will definitely, I can ask for Tuesday. I should see
Katie
her-
wrote down Thursday in the afternoon if possible. It's just that I had been advocating for an HR position for 6-7 years. And I'd like to, keep her, meet with her and see how HR is going to work best for the town of Old Lyme.
Okay,
Okay?
Yep.
And I will be away for a week starting on Friday, so it's either before I take off on Friday or after.
okay.
Okay?
So some of the things, just so that she is working on, is that she is working on our police contract, which we did get an extension through both unions, well, not we, the police union and our lawyer to approve. Jill and I and Anita will be doing most of the negotiating because of our backgrounds. And the police do not have that many proposals going forward that they've asked for. And we can't discuss that here, but we will give you a full rein. So that's something that we're starting. We did ground rules the other day, and now we'll exchange proposals later on this week. So she is also working on
Is
that.
there a moderator for that? Is it just the police and the three of you, or is there a third party?
No, we save money this way. They prefer it, we prefer it, and it's the way Tim did it.
I'm
as
just
well.
curious
Nope,
because
we
I've
say-
done it on the Board of Ed before, so I just wondered about the process.
We're gonna work a very friendly deal and give and take. Win some, lose some, and that's what you figure. And as you all know, the final thing comes down to wages and
course, pennies.
benefits.
Yep.
So we will do our best, and if we need to bring in Pat
Mhm.
McHale or John Miller, we will.
Okay.
But they know that this is the way we've always worked it, and Dominic and Steve Hackett, who represent the union, agree that we all get along pretty well and
Cool.
can talk things out to
Mhm.
come up to some kind of a middle line when we need to. So that is that. The other thing that Jill is working on is the employee handbook that needed some updating. Tim had asked Sheila McKinley Bell to do some work on it earlier this year. The draft that she provided to us right after the election was a little astonishing. One of the comments in it was that, I'll just share, that we found amusing, is that no one who works at town hall can have a drink in anyone else's house in town.
Can we turn this off now or later?
We found that was a little amusing. We
Well,
don't know from what employee handbook she pulled that from, but it was in ours.
Does that mean they could have multiple drinks?
Hey, I'm coming over after the meeting,
We
Jim.
just said that would kind of cut down on the LYSB holiday parties. We just
How about
found
just being
don't-
aware of anything in town or having conversations or, I mean,
it was a little bizarre. So Jill basically is taking what we had. And because she has knowledge of labor laws and the things that we had to change,
Mhm.
she's working through it. She said, but what will happen is a draft will come to all three of us. And we will literally have to have a working session.
sounds great. I've been advocating for that for many, 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 many
What we
years.
have, but and that's what works through all of our processes and things like that. So we will add that to one of or probably a special meeting, because it's going to be a working session. It's
Mhm.
kind of like when we did salaries and things like that. And if you
But
want,
that'll have to be posted so we can do it, that it's a selectmen's meeting if the three of us are there.
I feel like
correct?
our finance board meetings, nobody will want to come to listen, and I will ask Jill to be there because I think that it's important that she has. You can also invite Anita if you want, because of the fact that she does a lot with the financial side of things. But we have a little bit of time before that we get to that.
Oh.
I also will present to the Board of Finance tomorrow night, just some of the projects like the parking lot down at Soundview, the crib, the upcoming crib, and things that have to be done, Grassy Hill Bridge. The first thing on that, I have to get Frontier to move a pole. Nothing can happen until that happens. And start to get some financials. All of those things are going to require going to a town meeting
Of course.
because they were not funded for, except, well,
Well,
Grassy
the
Hill,
Grassy Hill Bridge,
Grassy
they
Hills,
had
we
been
just-
putting some money away.
right, you just don't know if it'll be enough,
Correct.
but we will move through. And that's where our ordinance will come into play, that hopefully we'll put that on the same town meeting.
Well, I would have liked to have been at that tomorrow night, but we hold our annual award ceremony for McCurdy Scholarship Foundation ceremony tomorrow night, whereby we award about $250,000 a year in scholarships.
What
and
time does
grants.
that start?
Starts at 5:30,
Okay.
5 or 5:30, and then we set up, so on and so forth, and usually have a meeting after. So I will not be at the Board of Finance meeting, and it's my husband's birthday, so
Happy birthday.
I need to go home and make a cake.
Okay, and then the only other project that I wanted to was on the tip of my. I'll come back. Anyway, we will continue to move forward on those types of things, and I think it was a good discussion with HRIC today.
I thought it was very productive, and I'm looking forward to having the meetings with other boards, commissions, WPCA, and there's another one after that.
The next one is affordable housing on the
Great.
1st, and then
Good.
on the 17th of July is the WPCA.
Awesome. I think it's really helpful to me anyway.
Okay. Anything else on your end?
Just quickly, beach stuff.
Okay.
Thank you, for the swim lines. I know it was tough this year with losing Harry Plout and the transition and getting that done. They are pretty essential, and I am concerned about White Sands.
Mhm.
Over the years, I guess one reason I've been hammering on this is that 20 years ago, 15 years ago, what is a phenomenal swimming beach at Soundview with a huge sandbar, swimmers are just being dumped on. There's just no concern for swimmers. And there's been a lot of work with the town, Board of Selectmen, Soundview Beach Association, a lot of people working to come to a compromise. And I think we brought it to a really good place where marine interest, boating interest, the bar interest, the swimmers' interests kind of balanced out,
Right.
and no one got everything, but, and sometimes you see backsliding. We had great swim lines that were paid for. One year it's supposed to last 10 years, and they're kind of swapped out the following
Yeah,
year.
exactly.
The swimming pool lines,
Yeah.
you know. This year, I know we're going by the book, and I believe in going by the book, but going by the book means that our swim lines are 100 feet more towards shore than
Oh,
all
really?
colonies are. And White Sands doesn't have swim lines, so that's a concern. And one thing I would just like to put out there, maybe if we when we get, you know, whatever fix we're going to have in the meantime with Parks and Rec, I'm sure there's going to be something to get that done. That when we do go for a permit with White Sands, if we could look at making our Soundview permit consistent with Old Lyme Shores and Old Colony, to make that 300 feet, because that's a huge sandbar, and
Yeah, I was
sometimes
going to say
it's up to your knees.
I had no idea
and you're
that
at
there
the-
was a difference of that many
yeah.
feet between the beach.
Yeah, and you're at the swim lines,
think-
you're up to your knees in the water, you know, so if we could push that out to 300, where they are right now, I mean, they were laid out perfectly, I have no complaints, and, you know,
But,
but when we
Yeah.
go for, since we're going for a permit anyway for White
Yeah.
Sands,
and I'm very concerned about the safety issues at White Sands
Yeah.
and how quickly we can get those in.
yeah, and it's not boaters, it's jet skiers that
Yeah,
tend to just
absolutely.
like freewheel
Yep.
through swim areas.
Yep.
That I'm
So-
concerned about.
Right, wait, I just was looking to see if I had. I know that in a document, Matt Lynch said to me, there's the changes at Soundview may come up to people like, why are they so where they are?
Yeah.
I also know that he moved the moorings
I
farther
saw
out
that, yeah,
because
that,
Right.
there was
I get it.
drag. and
Yep. Yep.
Those were incorrectly put in. So those people are probably aren't happy. There is a reason, and I cannot, it has something to do, I believe, with the coastal jurisdiction line. And
You'll find it.
I will find it and I will let you know. But Jim, I agree with you that it seems like it, but please remember too, that some of these private beaches put their lines in, and I'm not sure who they're using to put their lines in. So they may not have the permit to where they may not be putting them in where their permit says they're supposed to be either.
but even when the harbor masters sent the information on the permits, the colony permit was 300 feet, and the Soundview one was 200. So I just thought, since we
So
have.
that would have to probably be requested that we do another survey.
Mhm.
So I'm doing an emergency survey for White Sands because evidently it was never done.
Mhm.
So what I'd like to do for next year with harbor management's approval is, since the harbor master is so involved in the swim lines and the moorings, that we put the swim line, we take Parks and Rec, you take away swim lines. Don would love it.
I think it
And
would be
move it.
more efficient.
Move it to harbor management, and that them, because they're up to date on all the new codes, all the new
And
regulations.
they're also having all the water access, everything's, they're in the process of surveying and documenting as it is. It
Right.
just seems like a natural fit. I would expect Harbor Commission to say yes.
I would assume so.
So, and I think
And
it
had
makes more
Terry-
sense. And John's like, why is this my job?
Right.
The only thing I would caution, and this isn't to impeach anybody's motivations or credibility or anything, is that harbor management really is kind of focused on marine interests. Parks and Rec was focused on swimmers.
Well, then
And,
maybe we make it a
that we-
collaboration and not have Don step aside completely.
Yeah, they just
Well, I think, yeah,
because, you know, just to balance out, because there's no one speaking up for swimmers, and that's a low impact on the sound. It's a big value added to the
That's a big
town.
part of our tourism
And
too.
it's a big part of our tourism, and it's good for people's health. And because there's no money to be made from swimmers, there's, you know, no real advocate for them.
Well,
So-
except for the money they bring into town and
Right,
spend
right,
here.
right.
My first reaction was to take it from
Yeah.
Don, but maybe
And
we.
this isn't to
Well,
throw
it's-
shade on anybody. This is just.
No, I
saying
agree
it's
with you.
So
natural,
here's-
you know.
Yep.
I think that we get through this season, when the swim lines and the moorings come up, they're all going back to Public Works again.
Yes.
I know that Scott Mitchell said we needed some new things, and I know he had sent them a request to Don and said, can you just give me a check for a certain amount of money? And Don goes, that's not the way we do things. You can purchase and bill us, and we will. So he had some things that he needed. I have not seen that bill yet. It might be an overage in the account line, but he had to do it
No,
because
it's sort of
we
an
got what we got
emergency.
from. So we got those in and he was just very adamant. He said, I'm not putting in White Sands because there's no permit.
Well,
And I was very shocked about that. I was like,
we don't know
There
how
wasn't-
long, maybe there was a warning for a while about this we don't know about.
we don't, probably
Right.
not. There, I haven't found the Bible on that book,
And,
darn the book.
and the last thing I just want to bring up is that light at the end of Swan that's on a town pole, burning up town electricity, that's on 24 hours a day, is pointed at the sound.
Well,
So-
according to Mr. Murata, it is his light and he's paying for the electricity.
Well, it shouldn't be pointing at the sound in any
I
case.
did
They should be
ask him.
pointing down.
If he could please follow through, and he was here,
Mhm.
so I asked him one day. And he did state that he would look into it. I said, I'm not sure that those are the approved lighting, light bulbs for waterways. And I said, maybe you could follow through on that and turn it in a different direction. He said he'd look into it. So we might have to remind him once again when he's available, or if we see him down at Soundview too.
Not when you're having a drink anywhere near his house or him, though. That doesn't go in the minute,
No,
sorry.
that does not go in the minutes. All right, okay. If there's nothing else, I'd like a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. No extension.
Good meeting, guys.